joining us for another episode of the Marketing Meatball Mafia. I'm Christina Sarge.
And I'm Allison Micheletti. Today we're going to talk about the sometimes confusing world of your online presence and why it's important for your dental practice to gain reviews. Joining us today is Zeke, co-founder and president of Swell, a growth platform for dental offices.
Today he'll also talk about what platforms are most important for your reviews to show up on and what leaders of the pack have maybe fallen behind, and you should no longer be concerned if your reputation is on them.
Well, hey Zeke, thanks for taking some time and joining us today. How is it out there in lovely Utah?
Hey, glad to be here with you. It's a beautiful day here in Utah. We got some sunny skies, and it probably won't break 90 today, so that's a positive.
That sounds beautiful. We're just hunkering down, being a little humid out here in central Pennsylvania, but I always say it's better than snow. So
Absolutely.
Happy to have that.
You haven't had Utah powder yet, so you might change your mind when you come out for a ski day.
That's true. So a lot of the times ours is this really horrible fake stuff. So
it's usually ice. It's usually heavy and ice is what we get. So Zeke, it seems like everybody cool in dentistry is out there in Utah, yourselves at Swell, and a few other of our fabulous partners that we work with. But why don't you take some time and tell us your background and how you broke into the dentistry world and specifically Swell?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we are here in the dental capital of the world, the Silicon Slopes. We have, we're surrounded by pretty much the who's who of dental technology. So that was kind of by default, not on purpose. And so, but yeah, my name is Zeke Kuch, or Cook is the correct pronunciation. Very German. I am actually from LA originally, so just north of LA, in a city called Thousand Oaks is where I grew up. Been in Utah for about 3 or 4 years now, and been working on Swell since really I've been out here. I have a partner named Drew who helped start Swell with me. And to be honest with you, we had no intention of really focusing on the dental space at first. So we were actually working on another project where we were trying to help compound pharmacies and independent pharmacies grow their business and defend themselves against the like of Walgreens and CVS and Walmart. And that actually spurred into what we now have as Swell. And we ended up early on signing on a couple of dental practices that wanted to use our services. And it ended up just working out quite well. It was a good product market fit. It worked quite well with their patient base. It was fully automated. And the next thing you know, now I know everything there is about tooth extraction and prophies and, patient management systems. So it wasn't intentional, but it's been a good run for the last 3 years. And we've done a tremendous job and have built a great relationship with the dental community. And so that's kind of the quick background on Swell and how we ended up actually in dental.
Cool.
I love a happy little accident.
Right? Happy little accident. That's kind of, neither one of us had a clue that the dentistry world was so fascinating and fun, and you could have a whole career in dentistry and not be a dentist. So we're kind of happy little dental accidents too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those industries that's a big industry. There's a lot there. I think there's 125,000 dentists in the US, but it's a small community. And so, everybody knows each other. There's a lot of, tight knit groups. And so, reputation and word of mouth spreads quickly one way or the other. So it's interesting, but yeah, we're happy to be here. We love working in the dental space. We do work with other industries, but we are predominantly in dental, orthodontic, oral surgery. That's really been our focus over the last 2.5 years.
I mean, that's so interesting to me to hear that. Just because, as you know, we believe wholeheartedly in having that social proof present for our clients, and we talk to them a lot about the amount of reviews they have, how many positive reviews, how to respond to a negative review, how that helps them, appear in things like Google Map. But it's interesting to hear with as many companies that are out there, and we've worked with a lot of review companies, that this wasn't necessarily your intention to first come into the dental world, but yet you're one of the companies that's doing it the best. And our clients are seeing huge results from using Swell. Specifically, I have a client in the Houston area that had been using a manual review request software, and she might get 4 or 5 reviews a month. So her team was using it, but we would have hoped that she was getting a better result than maybe just 4 or 5. And as soon as she agreed to give the automated variation a try with Swell, the first month of using it, I don't even think it was a whole first month, she got 17 reviews, and really awesome reviews with a lot of detail and very heartfelt responses from the parents of her patients. So she couldn't be more excited. I'll have to forward you some of those emails she sent me with I should have listened to you sooner. You were right. We love this software. We love it. We love it. She's one of my clients that leads out. Like, I love opening her emails because she's like, love, love, love. Like, can't, so excited. And then 2 weeks into June, I'm gonna have to go back and look at her numbers, but only 2 weeks into June, she already matched that 17 new reviews that were left on from May. So
when we say that you guys have had some of the best results we've seen, proof's in the pudding, so to speak.
That's great. I mean, that's high praise, and we appreciate that. And that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish, right? I think one of the challenges with any business owners, but more particularly dentists, is that they're busy, their teams are busy, and if it's not automated, it just ends up being another process that has to be implemented, which is one of the biggest challenges with the dental clinics we work with, is building a process where someone's manually now, asking for or sending out requests to get, patient testimonials. And so, we find that if you can remove that barrier from the team, you're going to see much better results. And you're going to find that a lot more patients are willing to talk about you online on sites like Google and Facebook and Health Grades, whatever the review sites that practice is focusing on.
Let's kind of elaborate on that a little bit, and let's kind of expand this conversation of reviews. We have a favorite. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but do you guys have maybe a preference on where should dental practices be focusing on getting reviews?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that comes up quite often when we're talking to new accounts. The reality is on almost every demo I do, I get the question of, if it was your practice, what would you do? And I would say I would probably forget about all the other review sites and focus on Google. Now, that doesn't mean that, Facebook and Health Grades aren't relevant. It just means that Google is where a practice is going to get the biggest return on their investment. They're going to see the biggest impact on their business, specifically when it comes to local search results, standing out from that local competitor, or, making sure that you're populating when someone's searching for a dentist near me, or a dentist in Cincinnati, or a dentist in Los Angeles. We want to make sure that those businesses are popping up. And where do people look for businesses? They look on Google, and that, it's a pretty direct correlation. So we try to recommend to focus on Google specifically for younger practices or practices that don't already have a good presence or a good track record of getting reviews specifically to Google. And so I'm biased. I've seen it firsthand with practices. I've seen new patient flow tremendously increase with practices we work with because they focused on Google first, and then maybe had some other types of campaigns within Swell to generate Facebook testimonials and other review sites. So I'd love to hear your guys' take on that. I know you have your favorites, but that's something that we've just seen over since inception, and it's become more and more relevant to Google. And so I think it's only getting more and more important.
Yeah, I think we would agree with you as well. Google is where it's at. That's where everybody starts their search most of the time. 98% of the time, 99% of the time, search traffic from analytics that we track are coming from Google. So that's where you want to increase your exposure and have your patients say how awesome you are. I do have a question for you though, because when it comes to Yelp, there are certain communities where there tends to be a big Yelper population. I'm thinking, Chicago, LA, places like that. Would there be a benefit to maybe focusing on Yelp in those communities, or is it still mostly Google?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's actually a taboo subject. it's, I want,
Sorry.
I hope this doesn't get back to Yelp. So hopefully your audience isn't that big, but we have our own thoughts about Yelp. We don't recommend any business in general to spend money marketing on Yelp for the most part. I'm going to say it. Yelp, they're extortionists. They extort small businesses. Hopefully, I'm not being too direct, but they ultimately manipulate their own review scores in order to bait businesses into paying them for their services. And we, one, don't think that's ethical, and two, we don't think it's a good representation of what the population thinks about a specific business. You could get 100 awesome testimonials on Yelp, but only 7 or 8 of them show up. But miraculously, all the negative ones tend to show up. And so we're not big fans of Yelp. We encourage practices not to think about Yelp, to be honest with you. It's not as relevant as Google. So even in those markets, like you mentioned, the only time we actually get asked about Yelp is typically from practices that are in Northern California. And the first thing I say is, are you a restaurant? No. Okay, then how many people are actually looking at healthcare providers on Yelp? I don't know that data, but I'm assuming that there's not a lot of healthcare providers. And at the end of the day, that Yelp, disappears, or at least starts to play nice with the public. That's our 2 cents.
I don't think you have to be censored there at all. No. There have been a lot of articles out there that say, pretty much the exact same thing. I was just curious because it is something we get asked, and I'm sure you get asked as well. So
while we're on the topic of Yelp, one thing I'd leave you with on this subject is Yelp discourages businesses from asking customers to leave reviews. And if you really think about that, it's the craziest idea that a business shouldn't ask their happy customers, or any customers, not just happy ones, to leave feedback on a review site. They want them to naturally go out of their way to leave a review. And the harsh reality is most people who go out of their way to leave a review tend to do so because they had a negative experience. Those who had a satisfactory experience aren't the ones that leave the dentist and go, that was a great cleaning, I'm going to go rave about them on this review site. It's those who had the wrong tooth extracted, or it took a long time to find parking, or they waited in the room for a long time, or they got confused on the billing terms. Those are the people that typically jump on and sabotage the business's reputation on these review sites, which ends up ultimately, again, making a poor representation of that business. Those businesses are only getting negative reviews, and those happy or satisfied customers aren't the ones out of the way to give the positive reviews. So, that we started Swell in the first place was ultimately get a fair representation of the services they provide when it comes to these public review sites.
Well, absolutely. I think that leads really nicely into your software and what you help people do, because I think the mindset sometimes is that these patients will do just that they'll leave the office, they'll be like, that was great, I'm going to tell everybody about this, I'm going to hop online, I'm going to write this great review. And truth of the matter is, it's not really how we function. It's not how we work. We do like to do favors for other people. Right. So actually getting a request to leave a review tends to work way more successfully than just hoping that it happens organically and that you're going to get these organic great reviews, because exactly like you said, people who are going there organically more so are doing it because they may have not had a great experience, or their expectations were a little off, something along those lines. Right. So tell us a little bit about how Swell helps practices get these reviews. Besides the automation part, what's important about having something in place like Swell for a dental practice?
Yeah, sure. So if you're not using something to ask your patients to leave testimonials, whether these are private testimonials or public, you're losing out on the opportunity to learn about your practice first and foremost. So, a lot of practices are worried about getting negative reviews or hearing negative feedback. Sometimes that's the most important feedback you can get. You can learn trends with your business. You can learn about why patients aren't coming back, why patients are choosing other practices in your local vicinity. So just from that perspective, if you're not capturing public or private feedback, you have no idea what your patient base even thinks about you. So Swell, with what we're trying to accomplish, is help these practice owners understand what their patients think about their business, what that experience is like when the patient comes in and has a treatment, and more importantly, leveraging that voice to help attract more new patients. So in the case of using a tool, you're now more likely to get patients to go out of their way to leave these public testimonials on these public review sites, which in return can be exposed to thousands of potential new patients. And so one of the questions we often get from practices before they switch to an automated system like Swell is, what happens if I'm asking all of my patients to leave reviews and some of my patients are unhappy and I get a negative review on Google, for example? Our advice is always like, hey, that's okay. It's okay to get a negative review. Not every single customer is going to be satisfied. They might have had a bad day. They might have had a bad experience. You might have a mean office manager and it rubbed them the wrong way. Yeah. But the beauty of getting that feedback is now you've been able to learn that, hey, this is why people are having a bad experience, and you can take action on solving that problem. So with Swell, we automate the process of asking every patient who comes in and has a completed appointment to leave a testimonial. And it's up to the practice on which sites those are pushed to, or if they're just collected internally. But the idea there is that you're getting a better representation of your overall patient experience, and you're getting those patients to talk about you on those public review sites, which help impact new patients finding your practice and choosing you as a provider.
So let's say somebody did leave a negative review on, let's say, Google. How do you recommend that the practice handles that?
Sure. Yeah, that's a common question. First is to respond to the review on Google. A couple things that there's a lot of information out there, misleading information in the ecosystem about how to respond to those reviews. Our advice is keep it brief, keep it short. Never acknowledge that the patient was an actual patient or they had treatment. Just acknowledge that they had some type of experience with your practice and that you want to learn more. So leave an email, a phone number, just some way for them to contact you or somebody at the practice so that you can resolve the issue. So and it doesn't need to be more than that, to be honest with you.
Well, absolutely, because that will not only show the patient that you're listening and caring, right? Like, it's also going to show anybody else that happens to come across these reviews, potential new patients, that you're listening and you care and you want to resolve this issue, and you're hearing people and what they have to say.
And I love your response in to keep it vague, because I think one of the biggest myths that's running around is that, well, if they posted a review, they're already acknowledging that they're a patient at my practice, so therefore it's not a HIPAA violation. And that is incorrect information. And if you think a bad review is bad, just wait until HIPAA comes after you for a HIPAA violation. That's going to be a million times worse than the bad review, promise you. So we know just from even working with some of our clients, because bad reviews can happen even to the best practices, is that, okay, it happened. You can't make everybody happy. Maybe this person was just having a salty day. But like you said, just leaving a vague response of, we're so sorry to hear that. Please call us so that we could help learn more and how we could have made your experience better, without really acknowledging that they were really a patient.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what other services does Swell provide? Are you guys only a review generator platform?
No, it's a great question, actually. So we would consider or label ourselves as a growth platform for local businesses. And local businesses in our case typically end up being healthcare providers. Ultimately, our goal is not just to help practices or businesses get reviews or feedback. We're ultimately trying to help them grow the practice through customer or patient acquisition. And one of the things that we do and what we're well known for is helping these businesses get reviews online on sites like Google and Facebook and Health Grades, but also to help convert visitors to their website, for example. If you go look at most dental websites, a lot of them have no type of live interaction on the website. So it makes it difficult to convert website visitors into potential new patients. So we offer tools like instant web chat, where a patient can visit the website, submit their name, their phone number, and whatever question they have. Maybe they're trying to find if there's availability tomorrow at the practice for an emergency appointment, or if that practice accepts some specific type of insurance carrier, things like that. And allows the practice to get that message in real time, get alerted that they have a website visitor that's looking for more information, and they can respond. The beauty of that chat is that it's all leveraged through text, meaning if that website visitor doesn't hear a response in 30 seconds and they leave the website, they're still going to get a response from the practice from our Swell platform via text message. That allows you to capture the information of the visitor, but more importantly, continue that conversation until that you can get them into a chair at the practice. And that's one of the other things we do. So another tool that we offer is our private surveying component. So basically the ability to engage and capture insight from your patients internally. So this might be based on a specific type of treatment the patient had, or maybe it's, hey, we just got a new dental hygienist and we want to ask the 10 patients that saw her today how well she did. Little things like that can really help a practice understand what they're doing good and what they're doing bad. It gives them actionable insight and allows them to correct the issue so that it doesn't impact the business long term.
I think that's really important because many of our dentists are business owners as well and entrepreneurs, and they want their business to have a certain culture, a certain feel, and getting that real-time feedback allows them that constructive criticism maybe that they can address in real time instead of maybe waiting, this just festers over time and never gets resolved.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really about capturing feedback and then what to do with that feedback once you get it. And so we actually are building additional tools to help these practices understand the actions they should take in order to fix a problem, or how to leverage the good things they do to help that in return make the business more profitable and capture more new patients.
So do you guys conduct the survey for the practice and then review the results with them and talk about what actionable items they can take to do that? Or is that more of a coach type of role, or do you guys do the whole thing?
Sure. We make it easy for the practice to do that themselves. So
Okay.
we can obviously coach on best practices and talk about what other businesses are doing from capturing feedback and how to take action on the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But what we pride ourselves on is building a software tool that's intuitive for a general user to be able to create those on the fly on their own. So we're empowering the practice to be able to ask these custom survey questions or send out these review requests or without having a professional do it for them. It's really the technologies that these practices can do themselves without relying on somebody else.
Great.
Right. And I can imagine too, like we work with a lot of dental management consultants that are working with practices, that having this information real time, that maybe they'd be able to customize some of those questions for things they're working on with the practice. So again, they could be getting some real time feedback from patients if the systems that they're implementing within the practice are working and making a change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we work with a handful of consultants and agencies and other types of subject matter experts who highly encourage the use of this type of tool within the practice so that they can collect more data and improve their processes.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you ever get, and this is just something that I'm assuming may happen, is maybe a little bit of hesitation from the dental offices to maybe conduct a survey because maybe they don't really want to know?
Yeah, that definitely that comes up every once in a while. That's a sad position to be in as a business owner. I think that most practices we work with would like to know the feedback. There definitely are a handful out there that don't.
Mm-hmm.
They're just in fear of hearing any backlash. But it's really hard to grow your practice and learn and improve if you don't get that feedback. You're growing your business blind at that point, and you just assume that you're doing everything right, which is typically a bad spot to be in.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
I
I would welcome people to have feedback, good or bad. It's only going to improve you as a doctor and your business and your lifestyle. Honestly, it's all interconnected.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. Right. So if you don't know, you can't fix it. I think this is one of the other common questions we get when talking to a client about implementing something like Swell, and the automation portion of it is just to circle back to the review portion. We talked a little bit about how to address somebody that might leave you a negative review because you didn't know that maybe that they had a bad experience. But what if you know? What if you know that the person, one of the patients you had in today, just there was nothing in this world that was going to make them happy? Can I prevent them from getting the automated review coming to them later in the day, since maybe I don't want to invite any more of that crazy into my world?
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely ways you can do that. And there's systems in the past that have done what's called review gating or filtering, where they pre-qualify the patient before they ask them to leave a public review. We don't do that. One, we don't think you have to as a practice. And two, we think it just asks your patients now to review you multiple times in the same process, which tends to be tedious. We all hate doing multi-question surveys. That's why there's such low response rates on those type of requests. But ultimately, we encourage you just to invite all patients. In the case that someone doesn't want to be emailed or text messaged, sure, there's opt-out options you have within our system so that patients don't get requests at their own request. But ultimately, our goal is really, we know that most patients are going to have a good experience. In the event that someone has a bad one, it's okay. It's still, these are authentic, organic reviews that are getting posted publicly online. And essentially, you're going to bury those negative reviews with positive reviews because it's based on sheer data, knowing that most patients are happy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect.
Do you ever run into this is just a question that I get sometimes too, is I don't want to inundate my patients. I don't want them to get these requests all the time. Is there something to prevent that from happening, overwhelming them? Yeah,
of course. And that's something actually we talk about with practices all the time. They're already sending appointment reminders. They're sending text and email confirmations. These patients are getting a lot of communication from these practices, and we recognize that. So what we've built in our system is some smart features to help reduce that amount of redundancy. So the ability to filter how often someone can receive one of these invites, automated follow-up in the event that they didn't engage with it the first time. There's a lot of flexibility in how often they can get invited to leave a review, or when that follow-up gets sent out, or even if you don't want to have that follow-up and you only want a patient to be receive one of these review invites once a year or once every 6 months, totally at the discretion of the practice. And we just allow the practice to dictate what they feel comfortable doing from a review solicitation standpoint.
Perfect. You guys have thought of everything.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. So go ahead.
Oh, I'll say, yeah, most of that's just feedback from practices that we've worked with. We work with thousands of practices at this point, and we understand the ins and outs of the practice. Every practice owner is a little different. Different practices have different volume of patients. So we want to make sure that we can accommodate the requests of, and the respect the decisions that these other practice owners might want to make. So everybody has a different flavor, and everybody considers redundancy to be different. And so it's very flexible.
Fantastic.
So while we strongly believe that every practice should have some type of reputation management software in place to do that heavy lifting for them, if one of our listeners or viewers today wanted to find out more information about Swell, and do they contact you directly, or what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, multiple ways to get a hold of us. The best way, x.com. So Swell, C as in Charlie, X as in X-ray.com is our website. There's multiple ways. There's phone numbers on there. You can engage with us directly through our chat that's embedded on our website. That would be primary. Second is, we're pretty active on social media sites. So we get a lot of requests through Facebook, actually. If you have questions and you're active on Facebook, send us a note. We can set up a call. One of the beautiful things about this is our demonstration process is about 15 minutes long. And that, we know these business owners or practice owners, they don't have a lot of time on their hands. And so we can generally, work around their schedules, do a quick synopsis of their current review, initiatives, and walk through Swell. And it's really a pretty quick process.
And I know like Ali and I have been through your demo a couple of times, both for GPM and with some of our clients. It is super easy.
It's really easy.
You guys do a great job of making it very black and white and easy to understand. But there's nothing like getting an in-person demonstration of the product. Are there going to be any places or conferences that you're going to be at upcoming that maybe people can make it a point to stop by your booth?
Yeah, we're pretty active in the, there's a lot of events. There's pretty much an event every week these days, but the next one is next week, actually. So yeah, we will be attending ADOM next week in Orlando. I personally won't be there, but some members from the Swell team will be. And that we're big fans of that event, actually, because it's tailored towards office managers, which tend to be the main user of Swell within the practice. So it's a really great event. If you're there, if you're listening, you're attending, please come and chat with us. We also will be attending a ton of events the rest of the year. I actually wish I had a list in front of me, which I don't, but I can get to you and maybe we can publish that somewhere. But we frequent a lot of events, and so we'll get that published probably actually on our website and on a blog, so that anybody interested in meeting up with us at those events can reach out and we can chat then.
Fantastic.
Right. We can get that link too in the description of this blog so that if anyone listening could then go to the description and you find a link to upcoming events where you could find Swell.
Perfect. That's great.
Great. Well, I have a little bit of a weirdo question. I'm getting waved that we're a little short on time, but I didn't find anywhere to put this in the meat of all of it, but I have to know. You said you met your wife at a Dodgers game. What is it, 9 years ago or something like that? How did this happen? Because I have this picture in my mind that there was a foul ball and you saved it from hitting her in the face. How exactly did this happen?
Ali watches too many Lifetime movies. She's waiting for the meet cute story.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, let's just go with that story. I like that story. I can roll with that. No, it wasn't that glamorous, actually. Grew up a big Dodger fan, went to a lot of games and was living in LA, was at a game. I invited a friend of mine who was home for spring break to go. This is when he's in college, to go to the game with me. And while we're sitting there at the game, he's like, "Oh, I know that group of girls sitting 2 rows in front of us." And we ended up chatting with them. They ended up going to the same school together. They're on spring break. And long story short, about 8 months later, I quit my job, packed up my car, drove out to pursue my wife. And, we dated for a while and ended up getting married about 3 years later. And yeah, that's kind of the story. Yeah, really, she kind of took me by surprise, and that was it. No foul ball catch, no spilled drinks on me. No, nothing too romantic, but that was.
I think yours sounds like a better Lifetime movie anyway, if I'm being real.
Yeah, there's probably some events in there that would be, dramatic, but.
As always, right?
Yeah, and actually my wife's from Georgia. I'm from LA, so we now we're in Salt Lake, kind of in the middle randomly, but yeah, pretty wild experience. Now we have 2 little ones. A little boy, Leo, or Wolfgang, he's 3, and then we have a little girl, 4 months old, Louisa.
Aww.
So
cute.
And
awesome.
and an Australian Shepherd. My wife would get mad if I didn't mention him. His name's Banjo.
Oh, yeah. The fur babies are just as important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think he's first in the pecking order in our house. So.
Nothing wrong with that.
I was like, mine rotate.
Yeah.
Depending on the
Between
day.
the kids and the fur baby.
Yeah, I believe that.
All right. Well, this has been really fantastic. We really appreciate you sharing your software and your knowledge with us and listeners and helping dentists grow. That's really what we're all about here, is people helping people and dental professionals coming together to help practices grow. So we really appreciate your time.
I'm glad to be here. This was a great experience. Hope there's a lot of listeners out there hearing what we have to say today. And if anybody's interested in learning more about Swell and what we offer, we encourage you to reach out. We'd love to chat with you and talk about how we do things a little differently and how we can help grow your practice.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Love it.
Fantastic. All right, Zeke. Well, you have a great Utah weekend, and we will talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for having me.
See ya. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.